Strictly Ballroom, Romeo and Juliet, Moulin Rouge, and Australia. We do a retrospective on the movies of director Baz Luhrmann and a preview review of his next film, The Great Gatsby.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
I'm Leah.
I'm Liz. There's a new Great Gatsby movie coming out directed by Baz Luhrmann, and we're here today to do a little preview on it and talk about his work leading up to the film. So, how did Baz Luhrmann get his start?
Well, he was born in Sydney, Australia. His mom was a ballroom teacher, and she also competed with his father, who was a farmer and owned a movie theater.
He talks about how he was really influenced and inspired by watching movies over and over again in his dad's theater, and how it just kind of, grabbed his attention early on in life. And I guess he knew that that was something that he wanted to do. Well,
that makes a lot of sense considering Strictly Ballroom is about ballroom dance competitors.
Exactly.
Strictly Ballroom started off as a play, and then over a period of time, it was actually modified and adapted for the screen.
It's so good. It's such a good. I watched it in preparation for this show, and I was just like, oh, I'll just watch a clip or two. I'll just put it on.
No,
I couldn't turn away.
The humor of it was so unusual and so different from anything that I'd ever seen before. Right. And at first I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this, and within like 5 minutes, I'm like, this is the best thing ever.
It gets you with its simplicity,
yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
It's a love story. It's a romantic comedy, yet it plays on these kind of opposites or binaries throughout. You've got tradition versus the modern, and you've got this side of the tracks versus that side of the tracks. It really is a feel-good, fun, entertaining movie, and you really root for Fran and Scott to wind up together at the end of the movie.
So speaking of romances and wrong side of the tracks, Baz Luhrmann then adapted Romeo and Juliet for the big screen. I think this was his big game-changer movie. It really put his name on the map. Everybody knew who he was.
Two blushing pilgrims ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss.
Good pilgrim, you do wrong your hand too much, which mannerly devotion shows in this. For saints have hands that pilgrims' hands do touch.
Baz Luhrmann's version of Romeo and Juliet is the second installment in his Red Curtain trilogy, which is a series of films that have theatrical motifs running through their stories. One of Baz Luhrmann's strengths is his ability to deal with the spectacular, right? I mean, so by the time we get to Moulin Rouge, it's the spectacular.
Yay, Moulin Rouge! The scene where they're singing Come What May in the rehearsal, and Ewan McGregor walks down the aisle, and he finally goes, because she doesn't love you. The entire audience gasped.
But did you really not know he was gonna do that?
Not at that moment.
You gotta be kidding me.
But even so, even if we did.
It was telegraphed 2 million miles away.
No.
People on Mars could see that coming.
But it still worked emotionally. And that's my point, is that we still
But you know
cared.
what? It tossed the emotion to the villain. I gotta admit, the villain became one of the most interesting characters in the movie.
Well, you found him interesting, so the film worked a little bit for you.
Good.
No.
Regardless, he was nominated for Best Picture, and a musical hadn't been nominated for Best Picture since Beauty and the Beast about 10 years earlier. So it was a little divisive for critics, but I think popularly it was embraced.
With Australia, he said he was just going to go all out. And I think, there's a lot of things that didn't work, and I understand why. But there was something so sumptuous about it that I was just kind of taken over by the spectacle.
I don't know much about the country of Australia, and I think he was trying to educate people and have some pride in where he comes from. I like that a lot, and using Australian crews and helping the economy. I found it very long and boring, and I'm sorry, I love Baz Luhrmann.
Baz Luhrmann could, from time to time, stand a little restraint.
His next project is The Great Gatsby.
So The Great Gatsby is based on an F. Scott Fitzgerald novel of the same title.
There have been many versions of The Great Gatsby, most famous probably being 1974, written by Francis Ford Coppola, starring Robert Redford and Mia Farrow.
Not a fan of it.
It's not a film that stands the test of time.
Had some nice intimate moments.
Really? Mia Farrow?
Yeah. Mia Farrow was irritating, but Sam Waterston was very good as Nick.
Karen Black, love her. She's like, anything. She's crazy woman.
In everything.
In everything. What's really interesting in looking back at it, to me, is how it very much is kind of this time capsule of early 70s filmmaking. The style of acting, the style of filmmaking, it's very dated.
I thought Sam Waterston as Nick was fantastic, and that brings up my worries of the new Great Gatsby. But I just thought Robert Redford and Sam Waterston were lovely. I thought it was a nice, controlled, slow-paced film. The only real issues that I had with it were Mia Farrow and her performance.
Mm-hmm. It does kind of make you go, I wonder why Baz Luhrmann wants to redo this story.
But it makes perfect sense because the extravagance of the 20s is perfect for his visual style.
This is true.
Yeah, and the extravagance of his lifestyle and, the parties that they used to throw. I mean,
you want to see a Gatsby party through the eyes of Baz Luhrmann.
Right.
Okay.
I'm a little nervous about Carey Mulligan in this. I really like her as an actress, but she doesn't have a lot of sexual chemistry with her co-stars, and I feel like this movie needs that. I think she's a good actress, and I think she's empathetic, but you're gonna need heat.
Yes, it's the roaring 1920s, but there's a different standard of sexuality in public. Even at these parties, it's nothing like it is today, and I think that kind of tapered down behavior will work with this film.
Then came the war, old sport. Every Allied government gave me a decoration.
Major J. Gatsby for valor extraordinary.
That's right.
It's Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire that I'm worried about here.
These are both man boys. These are not men of stature. We're talking Robert Redford and Sam Waterston.
Yeah.
I just don't, I'm a little nervous about that.
Maybe you should have went back to Hugh Jackman.
So let's all give our final thought on this new Great Gatsby.
I really love Baz Luhrmann, so I'm really excited to see what he does with this.
I'm not supportive of a Great Gatsby remake, but if anyone's going to do it, I think Baz Luhrmann is the perfect match.
Well, I'm looking forward to us reconvening after having seen the film and hopefully having a very, very broad smile on my face.
To Baz Luhrmann.
To Baz Luhrmann.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Love is in the air. What's wrong with you?
Nothing's wrong with me. I got a cold heart. It's granite.